You are Locked On Rockets Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Houston on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Big yikes for the Rockets tonight as they absolutely choke away a win over the Brooklyn Nets with just seconds remaining. What looked like would be a guaranteed easy victory. Brooklyn knocks down a big three. The Rockets just have to inbound the ball. Amin Thompson loses his brain, and the Rockets find a way to lose and now have lost 4 consecutive basketball games at the worst possible time as the trade deadline nears here in a couple of days. Hello and welcome tonight to the Locked On Rockets Postcast. I am your host, Michael Connor. If you're watching us live, thank you for joining us as always. We are live after every game. If you are watching this later on, appreciate you as well. If you're listening to this on the Locked On Rockets podcast audio feed, thank you, of course. This is the Postcast show. The regular show is hosted by Jackson Gatlin. Tonight's episode of this Locked On Rockets Postcast brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. You know, we've recently done a show a couple of nights ago when this losing streak started against the Brooklyn Nets. Or excuse me, I'm skipping a game there. The second game of this losing streak when they played the Brooklyn Nets at home. And I said, was this the worst loss of the season? And at the time, I said, yeah, I thought for me it was the worst loss of the season. I thought that they played with no energy. I thought that they got bullied around all night. I thought that they were horrible offensively. And I had a just really down night for me on what I saw out there on the floor. The only other loss that I went back on, because we kind of rolled through a lot of them, there's been some disappointing ones throughout you're always going to have, it's an 82-game season, right? You're going to have disappointing losses. You know, the first game of the season, it was the first game, that was a disappointing loss against a terrible Charlotte team. You know, you had a tough one against Golden State that happened in overtime where you clawed all the way back and you lost it. You had that absolutely horrendous one against Minnesota where you blew, a 16-point lead with 4 minutes left to go in the game. I mean, just absolutely brutal. You had the game the other night, or you had the Sacramento loss not too long ago inside. There's been a few of them. Not a lot, just a few. Rockets now, by the way, with the loss tonight, 32-18. As I mentioned, 4 consecutive losses, the longest losing streak of the season. This is not fun. This, without a doubt now at all, was the worst loss of the season. Absolutely horrendous what just happened. You were allowed to make mistakes. You were allowed to do certain things. But man, oh man, I would love to be a fly. I actually wouldn't love to be a fly on the wall, but I would from the standpoint of I would like to hear what's said in the locker room tonight because you know Ime is hot. And yes, if there's anything that's true about tonight's show, James, you're right on it. I had to change those talking points last moment. You're absolutely right. Some of them will carry over. But yes, we did have to change a lot. I may or may not, when I go into the show here and get it ready and set up the title and everything, I always do one for a loss. Not if it's close, I always do one for a win. Whatever, like if there's a night where they're getting their butts kicked or they're winning big and it looks like a guaranteed win, I won't bother making the other one. Tonight I made both because it was tight the whole time. It was 18 lead changes in the first half. And when they were up there before the first three-pointer, before Brooklyn took the lead on the inbound pass, I had the winning title in place. I had the winning description in place. I had the winning picture for the thumbnail in place. So, yes, I had to scramble last second to change everything. Thanks a lot, Rockets. Appreciate you for that. Actually, I don't. Man, this stinks. This absolutely stinks. Now, look, again, the sky is not falling. It's not over. Is it frustrating as you know what? Yes. I am as mad as anybody. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. You go back and you look at the inbounds pass there from Amin Thompson. First of all, he is trying to get it to one of the right guys there. Dylan Brooks is, I think he's like an 87% free throw shooter in the season. He is one of the guys you want to get the ball to in those kind of situations. Typically, it's going to be Fred. Yeah, you could also say Jalen at times, but Jalen also had his. I mean, look, I don't know what. Jalen was doing there at the end of the game tonight. I really don't. You know, I think there was errors on the floor. I think there was errors coaching tonight. I think there was errors all over the place. I think right now, and this isn't an excuse. I'm not making an excuse. So those of you listening, don't take this as an excuse. I'm just pointing out from what I know of observing sports in my, I mean, I'm 34, but how long have I been watching sports like this? Since I was like 6? Yeah, I was a freak as a kid. It's been a long time. So I've been watching these sports forever and analyzing them and doing all those things. Did it on the radio forever. I try to keep a level-headed approach to it all. And I try to remember at times, these are human beings. The Rockets are beat down health-wise. They played just last night in a brutal defeat in Manhattan against the Knicks, where they gave up 46 in the fourth quarter. And tonight, they lose another one in dramatic fashion. If you have ever rooted for the All-Star break to get here quickly, this would be the time for it. They still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more games before the break. But that's part of this thing here. It is absolutely paramount that they have to focus. They have to figure it out. And in that moment at the end of the game, that's a lack of focus. When you have an inbounds pass like that, again, you're looking for the correct person there in Dylan Brooks, one of your better free throw shooters. The execution of it, I mean, I want to use words that I think Locked On would prefer me to not use on their branded shows. And it's awful. Absolutely awful. Maybe let's take a timeout. Maybe let's sit there and, think this thing through of how you're going to inbounds this ball instead of just going, hey, you know what? And here's the worst part of it. If you're making that pass in that moment on an inbounds pass under your own goal where the team is pressing, you do not ever, 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 ever throw a bounce pass. What are you doing? Why are you throwing a bounce pass there? You're opening up so many possibilities to a guy that is already having to box out the defender as much as he can just to try to have a chance to get at the basketball. And then you throw it in the wrong spot because, again, you're not paying enough attention to detail there. You lose focus for a moment. For a guy, Amin Thompson, who's been incredibly focused and a guy that does not miss on a lot of details. So, again, these are human errors that happen. Everybody's capable of them. That's where I try to keep my level-headed approach to everything. It can happen. You don't want it to happen in the last few seconds. This all gets back to the big picture things that we talk about with this basketball team quite a bit, which is they are young, they are frustrating, they are exciting, they are enjoyable, but they are also a team that is lacking in some key areas. And when things aren't going right in other areas, you see it magnified on a nightly basis. And it's not just because I want to bring their biggest issue is that they don't have guys on the offensive end, and in those kind of moments too, moments where you got to get the ball in. And if you have let's just say Kevin Durant there, that doesn't guarantee you that you're getting that basketball into Kevin Durant. But those are the kind of guys that typically find a way to get open or get a call and, the ball ends up in their hands. Rockets don't have that. And that is also, again, recognizing that this team at the moment is banged up. They are missing a lot of key people. I think that's part of the story as to why they played so poorly again tonight. And everything right now is bad. Is it a real problem? Or is it a slump? And I think that we also have to recognize the other side of things tonight. I do want to give a little bit of praise, as crazy as that's on the Locked On Rockets postcast, to what the Nets did to the Rockets in 2 games out of the last 3 games played. We'll talk about all of that here in just a brief second on the Locked On Rockets postcast. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but what if we focused more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody the green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do it at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Locked On Rockets postcast after the absolutely worst loss of the season for the Rockets tonight as they choke it away. They had the win right there in the bag with just seconds to go in the game. I wanted to pull up the video again because I could not remember the exact amount of seconds left. Brooklyn hits that first. So Brooklyn has the ball, 9.5 seconds left. They get it in. They knock down the 3. There's 6.9 left. 1, 2, 3. Almost a 5-second violation. He rushes to get into Brooks. And D'Angelo Russell knocks it down, leaves 3.4 seconds left on the clock. And then, of course, the Rockets' last shot goes to Jalen Green, who, honestly, I thought played a just absolutely horrific basketball game tonight. He was pitiful in a lot of areas. He absolutely just made poor decisions and did a lot of bad stuff. It sucked. It was great, by the way, to have Alperen Sengun back tonight. He went for 24 and 20. I know that he did miss 10 shots in the game, and he did miss quite a few free throws, but he did get clutch at the end and really gave the Rockets were going to win this basketball game because Alpy got clutch at the free throw line. Alpy got clutch getting to the line late in the game tonight, and, well, it was his team that let him down. The Rockets turned the ball over again way too many times tonight. That has been an issue of late. We've seen a lot of that. Of course, that tells a story for teams when these kind of things go on. The Rockets this season have been a team that does not turn the basketball over very much. They did it 18 times tonight. Brooklyn scored 25 points off of them. And look, in large part, the reason why they've been so horrendous at turning the ball over in the last couple of games is the fact that they're missing their point guard. Love him or hate him, frustrated with him or not, because he has had a rough season offensively shooting the basketball. Fred VanVleet matters to this team. And I asked the question, is this real or is this a slump for the Rockets right now? I still tend on the side of it's not that it's a real problem. I don't think that there's a real problem because I think the problem, and it's not even necessarily a massive problem for this team, but the problem has always been staring right at your face this season. The Rockets offensively are one of the poorer offensive teams in the league. The numbers tell you that. But they overcome that with incredible effort on defense, incredible rebounding, typically great ability to get out and run and outpace their opponents at times, do a lot of things that are important to go ahead and get victories on a nightly basis. That did not happen tonight for the Rockets because they are missing for the second straight game now their leader, Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet brings a level of steadiness to this Rockets team when he's out there on the floor. He might not be the perfect point guard. He might not be the fastest, the biggest, the strongest, again, the best overall offensive player, but what he does is he rarely turns the ball over. He plays within their system. At times when they need him to get a shot, he's going to get a shot. He can knock down some outside shots. They miss him when he is out. When he and Alpi aren't out there together, it is a big deal. They were a lot better tonight from the standpoint of having Alpi back, but not having Fred is a significant loss to this basketball team, and they need him to come back sooner rather than later. I, again, still sit on the side of it's not a long-term problem. This is not a bad team by any means. This is one of the better teams in the NBA, and this is a team that is on the cusp of contending for a title in the NBA. They have ascended to that quickly. I think if you go out and you read any of the things that are being written about them in the pursuit of anything at the trade deadline, everybody in the league thinks that if they make one move, they are a title contender now. And I think that they've kind of proven that they can be. Does that mean that they are necessarily? Maybe not. But they have that kind of talent. They play with that kind of effort that you can typically see that. It's waned the last few nights. I feel like a lot of the things have weighed on them, having guys out. And it's not going to get any easier in terms of being away from home. It'd always be nice to have, one of these some of these games happen where, you have the ability to come back home the next night and play at home, or a couple nights after and play at home. They're not going to be afforded that opportunity. They have to go to Minnesota on Thursday, and then it's at Dallas on Saturday before they return home for a Sunday matinee matchup against the Toronto Raptors. Then, of course, the trade deadline will also happen on the 6th of February, which we're going to get into that here a little bit in just a couple of minutes because there is some more stuff that has come out Rockets related today. We are on trade deadline watch again, 2 o'clock Central on Thursday. If you're looking for shows that cover a lot of that, don't forget to go and listen to the Locked On Rockets podcast, the daily podcast hosted by Jackson Gatlin. He's going to have you covered on a lot of that, and we will kind of, like we do with the post-game shows, I am going to react to what we see and hear over the next couple of days. We will not have one of these shows again until the deadline has passed, so we'll have a little bit of a reaction after that as we wrap things up on Thursday after they play. What did I just say they play on Thursday? Minnesota on Thursday in Minnesota. Need, again, a little bit of revenge for the last time that you lost to that basketball team. I also wanted to give, before we get to those thoughts on some of the stuff that was out there today on this Rockets team, trade rumor-wise, I did want to give some credit to Brooklyn. The Rockets, if you go, and I don't know that how many of you are casual viewers or intense viewers of other teams. I don't necessarily sit down and get locked in on games every night. What my typical evening routine is, I do the same with baseball. If the Astros aren't playing, I've just got other games on in the background and I'm watching as I'm doing things in the kitchen and whatnot, cooking dinner. So I'll put other games on. I keep an eye on some of the other things. I try to look at how other teams play, and then of course you kind of base your opinions on the way that these teams play against the Rockets all season long. I want to give Brooklyn credit here. I think that Brooklyn has matched, in the 2 games they play with the Rockets, they matched the level of physical style of play with the Rockets better than any team I've seen this season. There's been some teams that have pushed the Rockets around a little bit, have bounced back with it. But for 2 consistent 48-minute showings in games against the Rockets, I thought Brooklyn's level of physicality was tremendous. They might be a bad basketball team because they are, but I will give them credit. They play hard for their coach. That team played hard, and I think that they absolutely did great scouting on the Rockets ahead of time. They knew what they should be doing. They knew all the things that, goes into a scouting report. And they went out there and they handled the Rockets' level of physicality. They're a bad basketball team. They don't win a lot. But I think, again, they matched the Rockets' level of physical probably more than I've seen any team this season do it. And that was a credit. That's part of the reason, I think, why the Rockets lost 2 games to them. That and the zone defense. They were pretty darn consistent in both matchups, running that zone defense out there. And the Rockets, they couldn't handle it at times. So, again, credit to them for their level of physicality in this one tonight. All right. With tonight and the losing streak in mind, the trade deadline is ticking closer and closer and closer for the Rockets and every team in the NBA. The Rockets' name continues to be thrown about in some rumors. Do we believe these rumors? Do we think they have any legs? Do we think anything major or anything at all is happening? Let's get to the latest of what has been out there today, and we'll discuss it next here on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Super Bowl 59. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Locked On Rockets Postcast. After a brutal night against the Brooklyn Nets as the Rockets fall, in the last few seconds in this one, falling to 32-18 on the season, 99-97 the final tonight. Alpi comes back, gives you 24-20. Nobody else offensively really stepped. You know what? I can't completely say that. Now, his overall numbers weren't unbelievable in terms of shooting, but props to Reed Sheppard tonight, taking advantage of the 28 minutes he was given, giving Ime Udoka a reason to play him late. 16 points, a career high. Also, grabbed 7 rebounds and had a couple of steals and 2 blocks tonight. Reed Sheppard, sir, you, I think, if you aren't traded by Thursday, have probably earned yourself a little bit more PT moving forward for this Rockets team. I guess I just wanted to give some sort of love because, again, outside of that, there wasn't a lot to write home about tonight for the Rockets. I thought Cam had some good shots and some moments. He wasn't horrible tonight. Other than that, everybody else is pretty much booty cheeks, I think is the best way to put it. Rockets shot 41% from the field, 34% from 3, and they only knocked down 66% of their free throw shots. That's not very good. And again, turned the ball over way too much, 18 times for 25 points for Brooklyn. All right, trade deadline. If you are not paying attention to it during the day, what are you doing with your life? Oh, you're working and having a life and a job and making money and whatever? Okay, fine. My day today, I had some time. So I did some reading, and I kept up with it. I love the NBA trade deadline. The overall health of the league, NBA ratings are down. I think the product hasn't been great. I think we're in a weird transition period where the stars of the league are now the old heads, or as my nephews like to say, they're a bunch of unks. And we're transitioning to the next period of it, but there's nobody that's like there yet. That's that face of the league, right? It's coming. The collusion or whatever just resulted in Luka going to the Lakers is going to result in that. But the Rockets are a team that is ascending and is figuring if they're going to be part of that next group of teams that are going to win championships at some point. And it's happened faster than we could have expected this season. And it's been better overall than we could have expected. Even, again, we're talking about a 4-game losing streak coming in. That's part of the picture here. You're on a 4-game losing streak. You wonder, does that factor into any of this? You can't be reactionary like this. You can't go and give up the assets the Rockets have, for the period of time that they have, and screw up what you do unless you get exactly what you want. So again today, apparently the entire league is on pins and needles with the Kevin Durant stuff. There's been the Jimmy Butler saga for a while. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sick and tired of hearing Jimmy Butler's name. I'm ready for him to be traded or whatever, or, be gone from the Heat from the rest of the season when they don't trade him, because I'm tired of hearing about him. And good luck to any team that trades for him. I think he's I know he puts it on in the playoffs when he comes out there and steps up, but man, he's to me a problem. Kevin Durant. It's been a name that's been bannered about with the Rockets before. I've always said that I don't think it makes a lot of sense because he's older. If Kevin Durant was 30, okay, you're making the move. He's 36 now. Still a great player. Still scores as a scorer. You know, defensively, what are you going to get out of him? I don't know. Rockets and Mavs and the Warriors are apparently all monitoring the situation. That, I think, that there is two teams involved as well in Kevin Durant in the pursuit of getting him, I think almost eliminates the Rockets because it drives the price up. If you're Phoenix, you're just pitting all the other teams against each other, and you're just saying, keep the price up. You guys want him so bad. Golden State sounds like they are insanely desperate to get a superstar. And I say superstar. I hate that the NBA and the people that cover it use the word star as much as they do to get some of the better players of the league. They are wanting to get an all-star level player. Golden State is badly. They've got the end of the Steph era. It's coming up quick, and they're trying to suck one more bit of life out of it. I'm just not necessarily all that interested in the Durant angle. I don't think that it's right for the Rockets. Now, if they, by Thursday, pulled it off, would I be mad? No. Depending on what they gave up. Again, I mentioned Reed Shepherd a minute ago. I would prefer that you're not giving up Reed Shepherd. I've always prefer that you're not giving up Amin Thompson. Alpe's also an untouchable. I could part with Cam Whitmore. I could part with Jabari Smith. I'd be okay there. That's fine. But I know that, look, to get a star-level player, it's probably going to cost you Reed Shepherd. And look, there's nothing to hold on to with Reed Shepherd so far. He hasn't done anything in the NBA. Tonight was his career-high 16 points. I just want to see it out. I want the Rockets to have a dead-eye shooter, and I think he's going to be a dead-eye shooter in the NBA, and I don't want to look at him 2 years from now shooting 48% from three for somebody else, taking 8 of them a game, and he's not playing with the Rockets. That would suck to me. It was also mentioned in the Sam Amick piece of The Athletic today that the Rockets still, their biggest interest when it comes to a player from Phoenix is Devin Booker. They're probably not getting Devin Booker. I doubt that Phoenix is moving him at the deadline. In all likelihood, that's an off-season trade. Phoenix says, you know what, screw this. We got to tear it down. Let's go get a king's ransom for Booker. Let's get some of our draft picks back that the Rockets have and some of the other draft picks that the Rockets have. The Rockets have a ton of draft picks between now and like 2031. Let's go trade the 28-year-old Booker off to Houston. And here you go. I'd love that trade for the Rockets. I think he's the right kind of player to look for. He's not as young as I would like him to be. I'd prefer he was like 25. But you know what? 28 is not that old. And you'll get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 good years out of him if you wanted that. And then there's also the other thing that was out there today that the Lakers have called about Steven Adams. Steven Adams on an expiring deal. I don't think that trade makes any sense for the Rockets to go and move him. The Rockets need him to win. He's important. You could move him, but it would have to be a deal that nets you like something great as part of salary that you're moving or get you some draft picks. I'm not interested in anything the Lakers have to offer. And it sounded like they're not close on any of that. Nothing was going to happen there. We'll keep an eye on it. I still, again, tonight, sit here and say nothing happens for the Rockets that's big between now and Thursday. We shall see. I'll give my thoughts on it after the game Thursday night. Of course, they'll be playing the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota. You can join us as soon as that game ends right here on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday night. Enjoy some rest between now and Thursday. We'll talk to you then after Rockets and T-Wolves. Again, on the Locked On Rockets Postcast.